Now that your resource groups and resources are set up on your account, it's time to configure them on your activities. So head over to your activity editor, click into the activity you'd like to make edits on. In this example, we're looking at the water rentals activity. The first step is to make sure your ticket types are set up. Resources are attached to ticket types, meaning in this example, whenever somebody books a kayak, they're going to be assigned one of our kayak resources. So your tickets could be seats, they could be passengers, they might be canoes, whatever it is that you're selling, you want to make sure that your ticket types are set up appropriately. Next, you're going to head over to the availability section inside the editor and select capacity. Here, you want to make sure that your capacity is set up to by resources. There are a couple additional settings here that you can turn on just depending on your preferences. So first, there's a checkbox to assign the first available resource. This is helpful if, for example, you are a ballooning company where maybe you have 3 to 4 balloons, but you want to make sure that they get assigned in a specific order. So maybe your largest balloon gets assigned and filled up first, and then your second biggest balloon gets assigned second, and then your smallest balloon gets assigned last. This is a way to help make sure that the first available resource is filled up first, and then the rest will remain unsigned until that resource is fully utilized. The next option you have is a daily resource cutoff time. So you might advertise times on your experience where, let's say, it's repeating every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. However, your ticket types are durations. So maybe your ticket types are a 1-hour rental, 3-hour rental, and 7-hour rental. There may be a time where you don't want customers to select a 7-hour rental at 4 o'clock if your shop closes at 5. So this will automate the checkout process. So if somebody does select that 7-hour rental, they can't select it 7 hours before 5 o'clock. It has to be scheduled within a time period so that it can be returned by your closing time. So whatever your cutoff time is, you'll set it up here. And again, that will ensure that your availability is blocked off accordingly, depending on which duration your customers pick. Your max resource capacity, this just allows you to set up a max usage of equipment. So for example, you might have 30 kayaks, but maybe you just want to make sure that you don't assign more than 20 per time slot. There might be cases where you like to have some extras on hand, or maybe you're booking private parties, so you want to make sure to keep at least 10 in stock. That just allows you to set up an additional capacity. Once your capacity is set to resources, go ahead and save at the bottom right. And then now we're going to configure those resource settings. Select resources on the left menu. And this will bring you to your resource usage section. In this section, you'll see all of your ticket types listed here across the top. So as you remember, when we looked at our ticket types, we had kayak, paddleboard, and canoe as options. So those are all appearing here. We need to make sure that we have a resource usage set up for every ticket type inside the account. To set up a resource usage, just click Add Resource Usage in the upper right. This will then pull up the usage editor. In the first dropdown, you'll select the ticket type. In this example, we are looking at our kayak ticket type. The next box says resource group. So when someone selects this ticket, which resource group should the resource be pulled from? You can click the dropdown and select the appropriate group. In this case, we're going to make sure that a kayak is pulled from our kayak group. Scrolling down, you'll want to make sure to set the resource duration. So in this example, the activity is 1 hour long, so we're going to set that to 1 hour. You do have the option to set it to minutes or days as well, whatever makes the most sense for your activity. Next, you're going to go to the advanced section. Here, you have a couple settings under sharing. In this case, it says share with any other passengers. So if this is an activity where, again, maybe it's a bus rental. So if I book a seat on the bus, it won't close the bus out. It will keep it open so that anybody else can book a seat on the bus and share the experience with me. Only passengers from the same experience. This is really great for private versus shared activities, which we'll get into in the next video. But this just is saying if this experience is booked and this resource is assigned and there's still seats or availabilities left within this resource, should we close out the time and close out the resource, or should we keep it open for people that are also looking to book the water rental experience? Now, in the example that we're looking at with booking a kayak, this option won't probably be useful or make a lot of sense. And as in a similar way, neither will the only passengers from the same trip. These two settings, again, are best used for shared versus private experiences. Only passengers from the same location. This is great if you are a ballooning company, for example, and you might have a balloon launch in New York, and then you might also have a separate one in Washington, D.C. This will allow you to say, when my balloon is booked in New York, close everything out that is in the Washington, D.C. location. There may be times where you only have a set amount of balloons, or you might just have one pilot, and maybe those resources are overlapped and shared between each location. And, if it's a far drive and you can't get there, somebody books in New York in the morning and then in the afternoon in Washington, D.C., this setting just makes it so your time slots are auto-closed after one of those locations gets booked. For the example of a water rental where we're just booking a kayak or paddleboard or anything that's really a single passenger vessel, it's okay to leave the share settings at any other passenger. Since our resource usages were set to, or since our resource max use was set to 1, there really is only one seat on the resource anyway. So there's no way for it to be assigned to multiple guests. It will take the resource out of inventory once somebody books it. At the bottom, you also have resource usage duration. So there might be a resource that's used for multiple days. If that's the case, you can check off allow overnight usage. This just allows it to be used past any cutoff time that you may have set up on the previous page. Lastly, you do have the option to offset the resource usage. So if the resource is starting, or if the experience is starting at 9 a.m., it might take you a while to get to the place where you launch or you take off. And maybe you want to actually block the resource off starting at 9:15 or 9:30. You can add a little bit of a buffer period here. So let's say 30 minutes. And again, if somebody books at 9, it won't actually block the resource out of inventory until 9:30 in this example. Once your settings are configured, go ahead and hit save in the bottom right. And you'll just want to repeat that process again until there's a resource assigned to every single ticket type. And once that's completed, you're all set and your resources are configured on the activity, and you can move on to the next video.